I hid my white wolf for 7 years, until they forced me to shift in front of the Alpha King. My name is Stella Sky, and I've been drinking poison every morning for 7 years. Not accidentally. Not because I'm suicidal. But because if I don't, my wolf will surface. And if she surfaces, I'm as good as dead. You see, I'm not just any wolf. I'm a white wolf. The rarest, most valuable creature in our world. Legends say we're blessed by the moon goddess herself, that our blood runs with ancient magic, that our pelts can grant immortality. They're wrong about the immortality part. But they're right about one thing: we're worth killing for. White wolves haven't been seen in over a century. The last confirmed sighting ended with the wolf skinned alive, her pelt sold to a rogue alpha for 3 territories and a blood oath. Her name was Celeste. She was 19. They found her 3 days after she shifted for the first time, before she even understood what she was. I was 17 when my wolf first tried to emerge. Silver-white fur, eyes like fractured ice, larger than any female wolf had a right to be. I saw her for exactly 14 seconds before my best friend Iris screamed and ran to get Beta Rowan. That's when I learned what fear truly means. That's when I started drinking wolfsbane. The Crimson Fong Pack thinks I'm broken. A wolf born without a spirit. An omega so defective she can't even shift. They call me Ghost Girl, Hollow, the Empty One. Beta Rowan took me in after my parents died 7 years ago, and I've repaid his kindness by scrubbing blood off training room floors and swallowing insults like communion. But they don't know. They can't know. Because the moment they discover what hides beneath my skin, I won't be scrubbing floors anymore. I'll be hanging on a wall. And then Alpha King Derian Cloud sent word he was coming to conduct a mandatory blood moon inspection. Every wolf. Every pledge. Every servant. No exceptions. When they forced me into that ceremonial circle and commanded me to shift, when the blood moon rose and my control shattered like glass, the world didn't just change. It detonated. Because the king didn't execute me. He knelt. And everything I knew about survival, about power, about who I was supposed to be, shattered with it. The wolfsbane tincture looks like muddy water mixed with old bruises. It smells worse, like rotting flowers and something chemical that burns the inside of your nose. I learned to stop breathing through my nose 3 years ago. My hands shook as I uncorked the brown glass bottle. The cellar was freezing, as always. They kept me down here because I didn't need a real room. Omegas without wolves didn't deserve packhouse privileges. Drink it, Stella, I whispered to the cracked sliver of mirror propped against the stone wall. Drink it and survive another day. My reflection was a horror show. I was 24 but looked 40. My cheekbones jutted out like broken wings. My hair, once honey blonde, hung in dull, brittle strands past my shoulders. My eyes, silver green, the one thing I'd inherited from my mother, were sunken and ringed with purple shadows. My hands. God, my hands were the worst. Red and raw and covered in chemical burns from the industrial cleaners they made me use without gloves. My nails were cracked. My knuckles bled. I tipped the bottle back and swallowed. Liquid fire poured down my throat. It hit my stomach like molten lead, and I doubled over, clutching the edge of the stone basin, retching silently. I couldn't throw up. I had to keep it down. If I vomited, I'd have to drink another dose, and my body couldn't handle 2 in 1 day anymore. Deep inside me, Lyra, my wolf, whimpered. She was weak. Sedated. Barely conscious most days. But I could feel her scratching at the walls of my mind, trying to break through, trying to remind me she existed. I'm sorry, I whispered. I'm so sorry. But sorry didn't matter. Sorry wouldn't keep us alive. Stella. The screech came from upstairs. Vivian. Beta Rowan's daughter. 22 years old and crueler than her father on his worst days. Get up here, you useless waste of space. I shoved the bottle back into its hiding spot behind a loose stone in the wall, splashed icy water on my face, and ran. The packhouse kitchen was in chaos. Steam rose from massive pots. The scent of roasted meat made my stomach clench. I hadn't eaten real food in 2 days. But underneath the cooking smells was something sharper. Panic. Vivian stood by the marble island, looking perfect as always. Auburn hair in elegant curls, emerald dress that cost more than I'd ever see in my lifetime, diamond earrings catching the light. She had her father's cold eyes and her mother's beautiful cruelty. "Where the hell have you been?" she snapped, stepping so close I could smell her expensive perfume. Roses and venom. "I was cleaning the lower corridors, Miss Vivian." "Don't Miss Vivian me, you lying rat." She grabbed a wooden spoon from the counter and cracked it across my forearm. Pain exploded up to my elbow. "The Alpha King arrives in 4 hours. 4 hours. And this kitchen looks like a disaster." Alpha King. The words hit me like ice water. The king is coming here?" Vivian's smile was poisonous. "Oh, you didn't hear? King Derian Cloud is conducting inspections across all Western Territory packs. Something about a prophecy. An oracle told him his fated mate is hidden somewhere in our region." She examined her manicured nails. "Obviously, he means me. I'm the only unmated female of proper rank within 200 miles. Behind her, 2 other pack members, Jessica and Thorn, were whispering frantically. "They say he's nearly 7 feet tall," Jessica breathed. "That he killed 50 rogues in a single battle. I heard he can sense a wolf's lineage just by looking at them," Thorn added. "That his alpha command is so strong he can force anyone to shift against their will." My blood turned to ice. Force anyone to shift. "He's inspecting the entire pack," Vivian continued, her voice dripping with satisfaction. "Every member. Every rank. Every servant." She leaned in close, her breath hot on my ear. "Even broken little ghost girls like you." I couldn't breathe. "Miss Vivian, I don't think that's necessary." "I'm not." "Not what? Not part of the pack? Not worth his time?" She laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "You're right. But Beta Rowan insists. He wants to show the king how generous we are, keeping a defect like you alive." My legs were shaking. "I'm feeling ill, Miss Vivian. Perhaps it's better if I stay in the cellar. I might be contagious." The slap came so fast I didn't see it. My head snapped to the side, copper flooding my mouth. "You'll be there," Vivian hissed. "In the back row with the other worthless Omegas. And you'll keep your filthy mouth shut. Do you understand?" I nodded, tasting blood. "Good. Now clean this kitchen until I can see my face in every surface. Move." I moved. But my mind was screaming. Alpha King Derian Cloud could force shifts with his voice. He could sense bloodlines. He was coming here to inspect every single wolf. Including me. Lyra stirred in my mind, groggy and weak. "Danger," she whispered. "Mate. Danger." I clamped down on her voice. "Mate?" She was delirious from the poison. I had 4 hours to figure out how to disappear. I tried to run. 2 hours before the king arrived, I slipped out through the servants' entrance and bolted for the forest. I made it exactly half a mile before Beta Rowan's enforcers tackled me into the mud. They dragged me back by my hair. Rowan was waiting in the courtyard. He was a massive man, 6'5", built like a bull, with a face that looked like it had been carved from granite with a dull blade. He'd taken me in after my parents died in a territorial raid, and he never let me forget his generosity. "Going somewhere, Stella?" His voice was gravel and malice. I was just. His fist connected with my ribs. I went down hard, gasping. You will stand in that line, he growled, hauling me up by the front of my shirt. You will show the king that even our lowest members are obedient. If you embarrass me, if you make a sound, if you so much as breathe wrong, I will skin you alive and leave you for the vultures. Do you understand? I nodded, tears streaming down my face. Good. He threw me toward the enforcers. Clean her up. She smells like a corpse. They lined us up in the main courtyard an hour later. The warriors stood in front, chests out, trying to look formidable. Behind them were the families. And in the very back, half hidden by the oak trees, were the Omegas and servants. I stood between an elderly woman named Grace and a young boy named Finn who had a clubfoot. We were the expendables. The evidence of the pack's mercy. I'd rubbed dirt into my neck and face, trying to mask any scent. I'd swallowed a second dose of wolfsbane an hour ago. My stomach was on fire. I was dizzy, sweating, trembling. Steady, girl, Grace whispered, taking my hand. Kings don't notice shadows like us. I wanted to believe her. Then I heard the engines. The sound rumbled through the ground like distant thunder. A convoy of black SUVs rounded the drive, moving with predatory precision. The lead vehicle had a golden wolf emblem on the hood. The royal crest. The cars stopped. Doors opened. 12 royal guards stepped out, massive wolves in tactical gear, their auras so crushing that several Omegas near me dropped to their knees, whimpering. And then the back door of the lead SUV opened. Alpha King Derian Cloud unfolded himself from the vehicle. He was terrifying. Easily 6'7", maybe taller. Shoulders so broad they strained against his black shirt. His hair was dark as midnight, pushed back from a face that looked like it had been sculpted by something violent and divine. Sharp jaw. High cheekbones. Scars along his temple. And his eyes. Even from 50 yards away, I felt them. Molten gold. Burning. Ancient. The power rolling off him was a physical thing. It slammed into the pack like a shockwave. Beta Rowan bowed so low his forehead nearly touched the ground. Alpha Justin, our pack's weak excuse for a leader, dropped to one knee. Vivian curtsied, batting her eyelashes desperately. King Derian didn't even look at them. He was scanning the crowd. Hunting. The oracle was clear, he said, his voice a deep rumble that vibrated in my chest. She is here. I feel the pull. Alpha Justin stammered, Your Majesty, my daughter is away at. Not your daughter. Derian started walking. Not toward the warriors. Not toward the ranked families. Straight down the center. Toward the back. Toward the servants. Toward me. My heart was hammering so hard I thought my ribs would crack. No, I whispered. No, no, please. Vivian stepped into his path, desperate. Your Majesty, surely you don't want to waste time with the help. I've prepared a feast in the Great Hall. I can show you. Move. One word. Laced with Alpha command. Vivian's knees buckled. She was forced aside, gasping, her face red with humiliation. Her eyes found mine in the crowd. She mouthed, You will pay for this. Derian kept walking. 20 yards. 10. He stopped directly in front of me. I stared at his boots. Black leather. Polished to a mirror shine. The scent rolling off him was intoxicating, rain, cedar, lightning. Despite the poison in my veins, Lyra clawed at my mental walls, screaming. Mate, she howled. Mate is here. I clamped down on her. Shut up. He'll kill us. Look at me. The command wasn't loud. But it was absolute. I couldn't resist. I lifted my eyes. Gold met silver green. The world stopped. I watched his pupils dilate, swallowing the gold. I saw confusion flicker across his face, then something dangerous. Something hungry. "What is your name?" he asked softly. "Stella," I whispered. "Stella Sky, Your Majesty." He leaned in. Inhaled deeply at the curve of my neck. I flinched. "You smell of death," he murmured. "Why?" I have a blood condition, Your Majesty. I'm weak. I have no wolf." His eyes narrowed. He didn't believe me. "No wolf," he repeated slowly. "Then why does every instinct I possess demand I burn this entire pack to ash to protect you?" The crowd gasped. Beta Rowan shoved forward, his face purple. "Your Majesty, she's lying. She's nothing. A defect. A broken. I will decide what she is." Derian's voice was cold. He still hadn't looked away from me. "The inspection continues. But this one," he gestured at me. "She comes to the center. Tonight, under the blood moon, I want to see her shift." My blood drained. "Your Majesty, I can't. I told you, I don't have." "Every wolf has a spirit, Stella Sky," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "Tonight, we'll see yours. If you truly are as broken as they claim, you have nothing to fear." He turned and walked away, his cape billowing behind him. I stood there, paralyzed. Grace squeezed my hand. "Breathe, child." But I couldn't breathe. Because tonight, under the blood moon, my control would shatter. And when I shifted in front of the Alpha King and the entire Crimson Fong pack, they wouldn't see a broken Omega. They'd see a white wolf. And I'd be dead before dawn. They locked me in a stone enclosure at the edge of the ceremonial grounds. It wasn't a cage, not technically. But the two enforcers standing at the entrance made it clear I wasn't leaving. I sat in the dirt, hugging my knees, shivering even though the evening air was warm. The sun was setting. The sky was bruising purple and red. And rising on the horizon, massive and heavy, was the blood moon. Rust-colored. Ominous. Pulling at something deep in my bones. The poison was wearing off. I could feel Lyra waking up, stretching, pressing against the walls I'd built to contain her. My bones ached. My skin felt too tight. My teeth hurt. "They're gonna execute you," one of the enforcers said, laughing. "King's probably just dragging it out for entertainment." "Hope he lets us watch," the other one added. I closed my eyes and tried to breathe. I'd tried everything. Begging. Bribing. I'd even offered to swear a blood oath that I'd leave the territory and never return. Beta Rowan had laughed in my face. And he'd confiscated my wolf's bane. Now I had nothing. No suppressant. No escape. No options. Lyra growled in my mind. "Let me out. We fight. If you come out, we die. We die anyway. At least we die with teeth bared." I pressed my forehead to my knees. She was right. We were dead either way. The drums started at dusk. Deep, rhythmic, primal. They echoed across the ceremonial grounds, which had been transformed into an arena. Torches lined the perimeter. Bleachers had been erected, packed with hundreds of pack members. In the center, on a raised platform draped in crimson velvet, sat Alpha King Derian Cloud. He looked like a god of war. Black throne. Dark cloak. Gold eyes watching everything. The enforcers grabbed me by the arms and dragged me out of the enclosure. "Showtime, ghost girl." The ceremonial ground was a wide circle of packed dirt. At the center was a stone altar. The blood moon hung directly overhead now, casting everything in rust-red light. The crowd was buzzing. Excited. Hungry. They'd come to see a spectacle. One by one, young wolves were called forward to shift. A boy shifted into a brown wolf, Derian nodded. A girl shifted into a sleek gray, he waved her away. He looked bored. And then Beta Rowan's voice boomed across the arena. Stella Sky. The crowd went silent. The guards dragged me to the center and shoved me down. I fell to my knees in the dirt, my thin dress already torn from their rough handling. The moon's pull was unbearable now. It felt like hooks in my spine, dragging, pulling, demanding. Rowan stepped forward, his voice amplified. Claiming status, wolfless. Accused of deception. Derian stood. He descended from the platform and walked to the edge of the circle, looking down at me. The distance between us felt like nothing. The moon calls, he said softly, though his voice carried. Do not fight it. Show me what you are. I can't, I choked out, tears streaming down my face. Please, Your Majesty, I can't. Rowan pulled a silver-laced whip from his belt. Liar. He cracked it across my back. The pain was instant, blinding. Silver burned like acid. I screamed, arching forward. Enough. Derian roared, vaulting over the railing. But it was too late. The pain shattered my concentration. The walls I'd built around Lyra exploded. My back bowed. The sound of my bones breaking echoed across the silent arena, loud as gunfire. The shift was violent. 7 years of suppression releasing all at once. I screamed, but the sound twisted, changed, became a howl that shook the ground. My vision went white. I felt my jaw extend, teeth sharpening to daggers. My hands clawed into the dirt, transforming into massive paws. And fur burst from my skin. Not brown. Not gray. Not black. White. Blinding, pure, diamond white. I shook my head, the tattered remains of my dress falling away. I stood on 4 legs, massive, larger than any female wolf should be. My fur glowed in the moonlight. The crowd's collective gasp sucked all the oxygen from the air. Silence. Absolute. Terrified. Silence. A white wolf. The mark of the moon goddess. The sacred bloodline. A creature that hadn't been seen in a century. I snarled, snapping my jaws at Rowan, who stumbled backward, eyes wide with horror. I turned to run, but a massive shadow blocked my path. Derian had shifted mid-leap. He was monstrous. A black wolf nearly as tall as a horse, rippling with muscle, eyes glowing molten gold. He was the most beautiful and terrifying thing I'd ever seen. I bared my teeth, ready to fight. Ready to die fighting. But the black wolf didn't attack. He lowered his massive head. He whined, a sound of longing, of recognition, of reverence. And then, in front of the entire Crimson Fong pack, in front of Beta Rowan and Vivian and Alpha Justin, the Alpha King lowered his body to the ground. He bowed. The silence was suffocating. Hundreds of wolves staring. Mouths open. Eyes wide. Their king, the most powerful alpha in existence, was bowing to me. Then Beta Rowan's voice shattered the stillness. Lies, he screamed, grabbing the microphone. This is witchcraft. An illusion. No Omega becomes a white wolf. Kill the beast before she curses us all. He grabbed a silver-tipped spear from a guard and charged. Derian moved faster than physics should allow. He was a blur of black fury. His jaws clamped around Rowan's chest plate. Metal screamed. Rowan shrieked as he was lifted off the ground and hurled 30 feet into the stone barrier. The sickening crunch echoed. Derian turned back to me, placing his massive body between me and the pack. And then he roared. The sound was primal. Ancient. A command woven with power so absolute it made the torches flicker. Submit. The command hit like a tsunami. Every wolf in the stands, Alpha Justin, Vivian, the warriors, the families, even the enforcers, dropped. Some to their knees. some flat on their faces. The entire pack, forced into submission by their king. For me. Derian shifted back to human form, his body still radiating fury. He stood naked and unashamed, looking at the bowed crowd with cold contempt. "This wolf," he said, his voice echoing, "is under my protection. Anyone who harms her, questions her, or speaks against her will answer to me personally." He turned to me. I was still in wolf form, trembling. "Shift back, Stella," he said softly. I didn't know how. I'd never shifted back before. But his voice was a lifeline. I focused on it, on him, and felt my body respond. The shift back was gentler. Within seconds, I was human again, naked and shivering in the dirt. Derian removed his cloak and wrapped it around me, lifting me effortlessly into his arms. "You're safe now," he murmured against my hair. And as he carried me past the bowing pack, past Beta Rowan's broken body, past Vivian's horrified face, I realized something. My life as Stella Sky the Broken Omega was over. Whatever came next would be written in blood and moonlight. And I was no longer hiding. Derian carried me into the pack house, and as the door closed behind us, I heard the crowd erupt into chaos. But I didn't care. Because for the first time in 7 years, I wasn't afraid. I was furious. And the Alpha King holding me wasn't my executioner. He was my mate. And he'd just declared war on everyone who'd ever hurt me. Derian carried me through the pack house like I weighed nothing. Guards scrambled out of his way. Servants pressed themselves against walls, eyes downcast. No one dared speak. He kicked open the door to the master's suite, Beta Rowan's former chambers, and set me gently on the massive bed. The cloak was still wrapped around me, heavy and warm, smelling of cedar and rain in him. "Don't move," he commanded softly. He disappeared into the adjoining bathroom and returned with a first aid kit and a glass of water. He knelt beside the bed, this terrifying king, kneeling again, and began treating the silver burns on my back with a salve that smelled like honey and something herbal. His touch was impossibly gentle. "How long?" he asked quietly. 7 years. His hands stilled. 7 years of poisoning yourself. It was the only way to survive. "Survive," he repeated, his voice tight with rage. "You call that surviving? You were dying by inches, Stella. Your organs are damaged. Your wolf was nearly comatose. Another year and the wolf's bane would have killed you both." Tears burned my eyes. Better than being skinned alive. He moved around to face me, his gold eyes blazing. "Who told you that's what would happen? Everyone knows white wolves are legends," he interrupted. "Sacred. The moon goddess's chosen. White wolves are the original royal bloodline, Stella. My ancestors bowed to yours. You're not a trophy to be killed. You're a queen." I stared at him. "That's not, the stories say. The stories are lies spread by those who wanted your bloodline extinct." His jaw clenched. After the Great Purge 3 centuries ago, false rumors were planted. That white wolves were cursed. That their pelts held dark magic. It was propaganda designed to make wolves turn on their own royalty. My world tilted. Why would anyone want that? Because white wolves couldn't be controlled. Your bloodline answered only to the moon goddess. You were too powerful, too pure. So the lesser alphas conspired. They hunted your kind to near extinction and rewrote history. He cupped my face in his hands. You are not a monster, Stella Sky. You are the rarest, most sacred thing in our world. And I've spent 200 years searching for you. I blinked. 200, you're that old? A ghost of a smile. Ancient bloodlines age slowly. I've ruled for a century and a half. And the oracle's prophecy has haunted me for decades. Your queen wears the moon's own fur and hides in shadow and pain. I've searched every territory. Every pack. His thumb brushed my cheekbone. And you were here. Suffering. While I hunted in vain. The mate bond I'd been fighting snapped into place like a lock clicking home. I gasped, feeling his emotions flood through the connection, rage at those who hurt me, reverence for what I was, and something else. Guilt. I should have found you sooner, he whispered. You couldn't have known. I should have felt you. The mate bond should have led me straight to you. But the wolf's bane masked your presence. It made you invisible even to fate itself. He pressed his forehead to mine. Forgive me. There's nothing to forgive, I breathed. He kissed me then. Soft. Reverent. Like I was something holy. When he pulled back, his eyes had hardened into something feral. But there is everything to punish. Beta Rowan. His daughter. Every wolf who laid hands on you. They will answer for what they've done. Dawn broke cold and gray. Derian had spent the night in a chair beside the bed, watching over me while I slept for the first time in years without poison in my veins. When I woke, Lyra was strong again, fully present, purring contentedly in my mind. Mate kept us safe, she murmured. Good mate. Derian's royal guards had rounded up Beta Rowan, Vivian, and 12 other pack members who'd been identified as my primary abusers. They were brought in chains to the ceremonial grounds at dawn. The entire pack was forced to attend. I stood on the platform beside Derian, wearing a white dress his guards had procured from somewhere. It was simple but beautiful. I looked like myself for the first time in 7 years. Derian stood in full royal regalia, black and gold armor, the crown of silver thorns on his head, his cape billowing in the wind. He looked every inch the conqueror. These wolves stand accused of crimes against a sacred bloodline, Derian's voice carried across the silent crowd. They have tortured, starved, and attempted to erase a white wolf, a creature under the moon goddess's direct protection. They have violated the oldest laws of our kind. Beta Rowan glared up at me, even in chains. His chest was wrapped in bandages from where Derian had crushed his armor. She's a lying witch. Derian's alpha command cut him off mid-sentence. Silence. Rowan's mouth snapped shut, his face purple with rage. Vivian was crying, mascara running down her face. Please, Your Majesty, I didn't know what she was. You knew she was suffering, I said quietly, surprised by the steadiness in my own voice. You knew she was hurting. And you enjoyed it. Vivian's eyes widened. She'd never heard me speak with any authority before. Derian turned to me. By rights, as the wronged party, the judgment is yours to pass. What would you have me do with them? Every eye in the pack turned to me. For 7 years, I'd been powerless. Voiceless. Invisible. Now I held the lives of my tormentors in my hands. Lyra growled in my mind. Kill them. Make them suffer as we suffered. Part of me wanted that. The dark, wounded part that remembered every beating, every slur, every night I'd gone to bed starving and crying. But another part of me, the part that had somehow survived with my humanity intact, knew better. Exile, I said finally. Strip them of their rank and title. Ban them from every pack territory under your rule. Let them live as rogues, the very thing they despised. Let them know what it means to be unwanted and powerless. Derian studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Wise. Merciful. More than they deserve. He turned to his guards. Execute the Omega's sentence. They have 1 hour to leave pack lands. If they're found within my territories after sundown, the sentence becomes death. Beta Rowan lunged against his chains. You can't, this is my pack. My territory. Was your territory, Derian corrected coldly. It's now under crown jurisdiction. And if I ever hear you've harmed another soul, I will personally hunt you down and make your death last days. The guards dragged them away. Vivian was screaming. Rowan was cursing. The other accused were weeping. I felt nothing but relief. 3 days later, the Crimson Fang pack was dissolved and absorbed into Crown territory. Alpha Justin abdicated without protest. He'd always been weak, and he knew it. Derian appointed new leadership, fair wolves from neighboring packs who swore oaths to rule with justice. And then he turned to me. "There's something we need to discuss," he said as we stood in what was now our private chambers. I raised an eyebrow. "That sounds ominous. You're the last known white wolf, Stella. Your bloodline is sacred. The other packs need to know you exist. They need to know the truth." My stomach nodded. "You want to announce me publicly?" "I want to crown you," he corrected. "As my queen. As the Luna Queen of all territories." I stared at him. "I don't know how to be a queen." "You survived 7 years of torture without losing your capacity for mercy. You're already a queen. You just need to step into the role." He took my hand. "I know you're afraid. I know this is overwhelming. But you won't do it alone. I'll be beside you." And Stella, his gold eyes softened. "The world needs to see what they tried to destroy. They need to see that white wolves still exist. That the sacred bloodline survived. It will give hope to every wolf who's been told they're worthless. Every Omega who's been abused. Every outcast who's been told they don't belong." I thought of Grace, the old Omega who'd held my hand in the lineup. Of Finn, the boy with the clubfoot. Of all the invisible, suffering wolves like I'd been. "All right," I whispered. "I'll do it." The coronation took place under a full moon, silver this time, not blood red, in the capital city. Wolves came from every territory. Thousands of them. I wore a gown of white and silver that seemed to capture moonlight itself. My hair had been washed and braided with tiny crystals. I looked like someone I didn't recognize. But I felt like myself. Finally, completely myself. Derian stood beside me on the raised dais, wearing his crown and armor. When the high priestess called me forward, I knelt. She placed a crown of silver and moonstones on my head. "Rise, Luna Queen Stella Sky," she intoned. "Blessed of the moon goddess. Keeper of the ancient bloodline. Protector of the forsaken." I rose. The crowd erupted in howls, not of mockery this time, but of reverence. Derian took my hand and raised it high. "Behold your Luna Queen." The howls intensified. And as I looked out over the sea of faces, I saw Omegas crying. Outcasts staring with wonder. Children pointing at me with hope in their eyes. I was no longer the broken Omega. I was the symbol that survival was possible. That power could be reclaimed. That the abused could become the crowned. Months passed. I learned to rule alongside Derian. It wasn't easy. There were political intrigues, territorial disputes, wolves who resented my sudden rise to power. But I had Derian beside me, and I had Lyra strong and vibrant in my mind, and I had something I'd never had before. Purpose. We established sanctuaries for abused Omegas. We passed laws protecting the vulnerable. We hunted down alphas who ran their packs like Rowan had run his, with cruelty and exploitation. And slowly, the world began to change. One evening, as Derian and I stood on the balcony of the royal palace watching the sunset, he pulled me close. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked quietly. "The pain you endured to get here?" I thought about it. About the 7 years of poison. The abuse. The fear. "No," I said finally. "Because it taught me something. It taught me that survival isn't weakness. That enduring isn't the same as surrendering. And it taught me that the ones they try hardest to break are usually the ones who become unbreakable." He kissed the top of my head. "My wise queen." "Your stubborn queen," I corrected with a smile. Lyra stretched contentedly in my mind. Our mate. Our throne. Our life. And as the sun set and the moon rose, silver and full and beautiful, I shifted for the first time without fear. White fur erupted from my skin. I was massive and powerful and glowing in the moonlight. Derian shifted beside me, his black wolf as magnificent as always. And together, we howled at the moon that had always been watching, always waiting, always knowing that I would survive. That I would rise. That I would become exactly what I was meant to be. Not in spite of the darkness, but because of it. 7 years later. I stood in the throne room, watching a young Omega girl being brought before us by royal guards. She was thin, bruised, terrified. She reminded me of someone. "What's your name?" I asked gently, descending from the throne. "Kira, Your Majesty," she whispered. "Kira, did someone hurt you?" She nodded, tears streaming down her face. My alpha said I was worthless. That I'd never have a wolf. He said I should be grateful he let me live. I knelt in front of her, taking her small hands in mine. Your alpha lied. You are not worthless. You are not broken. And you will have a wolf when the time is right. Her eyes widened. How do you know? I smiled. Because someone once told me the same thing. And they were right. I looked up at Derian, who was watching with soft eyes. Kira, I said, how would you like to stay here at the palace? We have a school for young wolves. You'll be safe here. You'll be fed. You'll be valued. She stared at me like I'd offered her the moon itself. Really? Really? She threw her arms around me and sobbed. And as I held her, I realized something. The poison I'd swallowed for 7 years hadn't just kept me alive. It had prepared me for this. For saving others the way I'd had to save myself. For being the Luna Queen the broken needed. The white wolf who refused to stay hidden. The end. This is the story of Stella Sky, who drank poison for 7 years to hide the light inside her. Who was tortured and erased and told she was nothing. Who was forced to shift in front of the most powerful wolf alive and discovered she wasn't the monster they claimed, she was the queen they feared. This is the story of how survival becomes strength. How the hunted become the hunters. How the broken become the ones who heal others. This is the story of a white wolf who refused to die. And a king who refused to let her. So here's what I need you to understand. Stella didn't hesitate when it came time to show mercy, even though mercy was never shown to her. She endured 7 years of poison and pain and came out the other side not bitter, but better. She became the protector of the powerless. And all I'm asking from you is one simple action: hit that subscribe button right now. Because stories like this, stories about survival and strength and refusing to stay broken, they deserve to be told. They deserve to be heard. If you're still here, that means something. It means you see the value in narratives that show us we're stronger than our circumstances. So prove it. Subscribe. Turn on notifications. Let's build a community that believes in second chances and sacred transformations. Don't scroll past. Don't wait. Do it now. For Stella. For every person who's been told they're worthless and proved the world wrong. For every survivor who became a warrior. One click. That's all it takes. Be part of this journey. Subscribe.